What's happening, everybody? It's Sean with Reactions to the Classics, and today we got a reaction to the Jayhawks and their album Hollywood Town Hall, brought to us by friend, longtime supporter, and patron of the channel, Trucker Kev. Thanks, Trucker Kev. Appreciate you. Appreciate all the patrons that make this thing go. You don't have to support us in any way. It's the only way we can keep this channel going. Check out the Patreon link below, the patron link on the end screen. We super appreciate it. All right, the Jayhawks. I know a little bit about them. Over 2 years ago, I did a top 10 for them for one of our other patrons, Slate said, and I really enjoyed it. But I haven't heard any Jayhawks since, and I hadn't really heard much of them before that. So don't know a lot about them. So I'm looking forward to diving in to this album. So we're going to get Trucker Kev's thoughts on why he brought this album. Trucker Kev knows a ton about music. And then I'll give you some other information on the Jayhawks and this album in particular. And then we'll dive in, man. Trucker Kev says, having begun back in the mid-'80s as just a local regional band focused on roots and country music. In Minneapolis, they would release 2 albums on a small label before 1992 would come around, and doors would open up big time with the Hollywood Town Hall. It would be signed to Deaf American Records. The real core of the band were songwriters and guitarists Mark Olson and Gary Loris. Along with some other members, the Jayhawks are a band that would definitely, through the years to today, see a lot of different revolving doors and lineup changes. This album was a very big surprise for the music industry as it plucked the obscure Minneapolis band out of nowhere, and with the first song on the album, Waiting for the Sun, making major radio play on FM rock stations all over. A combination of roots rock, country rock. Nowadays, it's what we call Americana. These are very well-crafted songs, fueled throughout this album predominantly by Gary Loris' fuzz guitar. There would also be a lot of fantastic harmonies making up many of the gentle rocking songs. It also had a couple of big heavy hitters appear, keyboard-wise, surprisingly on this album. Benmont Tench, of course, of the Heartbreakers, Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers, would play on some of the cuts, and the very much missed found everywhere still to this day, even in the 90s. Nicky Hopkins, the legend himself, who would still be around for 2 more years before his sad and timely death, also comes up on a few cuts on piano, also giving it just a great sound still 30 plus years later. Produced by George Draculis, who also would take another band with 2 albums under their belt. The Black Crowes also produces this one. This received very good praise amongst critics and ratings and a whole lot more. Unfortunately, just like many bands, and the fighting egos, of course, and other things would drive them apart a few years later. After the next great album in 1995, Tomorrow the Green Grass, Mark would lead the band due to Gary's dependency on painkillers really messing up a lot of things. However, to this day, Gary is still keeping the band together when they convene, and they still have a very decent following throughout. Mark and Gary got together a couple times, sort of like Sammy and Kurt, of another great Midwest rock band out of Milwaukee, Wisconsin, the Bodines did. But then again, it didn't last very long because old habits reared and drove the members apart again. This is one of those albums that grew quickly on me and has always been one of my go-to albums still to this day. I just popped it in the CD as if I had for many years and just enjoy the hell out of it. Simple as that. The songwriting that came up with, the harmonies, the musical instrumentation, the arrangements, and a whole lot more, it's just right in my wheelhouse majorly. There definitely aren't any favored or unfavored cuts. I like them all. There are songs that are easy to get into, although I do have to say when it comes to great fuzz guitar, Wichita, which is really a standout, and Sister Cry is just phenomenal. It is my favorite Jayhawks album, and still I'm going to give you a score up front. It still holds a very high 9.0 for Kev. So Kev gave the breakdown there. I don't have to really give you a lot, but I'll just give you some specific stuff on them. They have 11 studio albums, and then on this album itself, went to 11 on the Billboard Heat Seekers chart and 192 on the Billboard Top 200. NME gave it a 7 out of 10. Pitchfork an 8.3 out of 10. Deaf American Records producer who I talked about earlier, George Draculis, there we go, discovered and signed the Jayhawks after hearing them playing in the background during a conversation with Twin Tones Records' Dave Ayers. So he's talking to them on the phone and the Jayhawks are in the background. He did travel to meet them and hear them live. But what set everything in motion was his hearing the Everly Brothers style close harmonies of Mark and Gary on that long distance call. Olson playing acoustic guitar is the country folky dude, while Loris likes to plug in and power up. So just kind of keep that in mind. Gary told the Aquarian in 2011 about this. He said there was a lot of blood spilled and sweat poured out and feet stepped on. But I just remember the time being an exciting period because just our transition from being kind of a regional band to becoming internationally owned. That would just be surreal, right? The Martin Akins conceived cover art for the album, which I'll put up right now so you can see it, shows the band posed in midwinter on a sofa outside the town hall during building in Hollywood Township. We just accidentally drove into this place 15 miles outside of Minneapolis called Hollywood, Minnesota. Gary recalled in an interview in 2011, and drove by this kind of iconic looking building that said Hollywood Town Hall in the front. It was sort of fitting after spending 4 months recording the album in Hollywood, California. We all kind of had this drawn out look about us because it was damn cold. So it was a true Minnesota picture in a way. It captured a bit of the feeling and showed that we were from a certain place, and it reflected our writing in certain ways, because I don't oftentimes go into the album covers anymore. I used to, but I just thought it was interesting to come across because I was like, this is a weird album cover. Gary told Rolling Stone in 2016, there was no scene that we felt like we were part of. If anything, there was Uncle Tupelo, but I think we were a little bit ahead of some of the other bands. There weren't a lot of people doing what we were doing at the time, and that was part of the thrill of it. It didn't fit in Minnesota, and it didn't fit anywhere else. There were never any kind of country rock summit meetings. Even to this day, we're still outsiders. We never get acknowledged by any kind of Americana music festival. It's almost like we don't exist in some ways. That's okay. Part of it's probably being the result of being isolated up here in Minneapolis. Hollywood Town Hall was a coming of age for the Jayhawks on a number of levels. We were green, Olsen explained at Rolling Stone, and we were a little scared because, remember, we had been trying for years to get a record contract. Nothing ever clicked. So all of a sudden we finally got the call, and we were nervous. It was the big time. All right, we're going to jump into this. All songs written by Mark and Gary, except Wichita, which were by Mark, Gary, and Mark Perlman. The music will not be in the video, but it'll be at a Vimeo link below. So click on that and follow along with us. Let's jump into it. The song that Kev mentioned in the beginning, getting some radio play, right? Waiting for the Sun. Single would eventually land in the top 20 of Billboard's hot mainstream rock charts and top 30 on the modern rock tracks chart. Those are both very good charts, right? All right, I'm going to have the lyrics up as always. Thanks again, Trucker Kev. All right, Waiting for the Sun. Gary was singing lead vocals there, also on that fantastic electric guitar. And, Ben Montench was on the organ there, and that really played in there. Mark was on the acoustic, but just a really great sound, right? Just a really great sound. You can see why this was a hit. I don't know who exactly he's talking about, because he's talking about his father or friend. I don't know, but, nice, really nice job, really good job on this first song. Next up, we got Crowded in the Wings. We got the substitute drummer, Charlie Drayton, on this one. So, and there's going to be a harmonica in here from Olsen, and Benmont is, of course, going to be on organ. Let's do it. All right, great harmony vocals there, right? It's that Everly Brothers style vocals that we were talking about at the start that got them signed to begin with. And Mark's harmonica really adds a different tone to this, right? It's a different song than Waiting for the Sun, and you know it immediately, but really, really well done. And then the solo at the end of Gary's guitar is just fantastic. Kind of the way it fades you out, kind of similar to the great Mike Campbell with the Heartbreakers, because Benmont on here is, again, just on point. As far as what the song is about, I mean, the woman's left him. Now, I don't know if she just left him or she died, right? I can't really tell, but really well done. All right, next up, we got Mark on lead vocals on this one. We got Clouds. All right, Clouds. I thought Gary's guitar work on there was the star, right? That riff and just the way it sounded underneath Mark's vocals was just fantastic, man. That was the star, though. I just really, really enjoyed that. I haven't mentioned Mark Perlman on bass, but he's been good on these first three songs. They're not heavy bass oriented. I don't think they're going to be, but the stuff I know of the Jayhawks, but it has to be there. So, and once again, Benmont on the organ on there, just spot on. Next up, we have Two Angels. Now, this was a live staple already for them. It's like a song that everybody looked forward to when they're playing live. So we bring in Nicky Hopkins, right, to do some piano work on this. So apparently Gary is showing off his trick of making his electric sound like a pedal steel. And we got Olsen on harmonica. So it's not a pedal steel. I tell you that up front to tell you it's not a pedal steel. So let's see if it really sounds like one. All right, Two Angels. It definitely sounded like a pedal steel there. I mean, the song's about tragedy, right? Someone's died. But Mark on lead vocals there. But the harmonica on there's good. Like whenever a song starts out with the harmonica, it just frames it up differently, right? But Nicky Hopkins on the piano, and we had Benmont on the organ. I mean, this is superstar lineup here of arrangement. But that was so far 4 songs in. There's 10 songs on this album. That's the highlight for me so far. Just the musicianship is fantastic, and then obviously the harmony vocals. But the song was really good and really well written. Next up, we have Take Me With You, in parentheses, When You Go. And we got the dual lead vocal here, so this ought to be great. You also have Nicky on the piano on this one. All right, Take Me With You, When You Go. So this is one of those songs where it's masterful when an artist can make the emotion of the song come out through the instrumentation. That's what Gary does, especially here with the guitar work, right? And then the vocal harmonies on the chorus itself. You know, each night when I go to bed, I pray, take me with you when you go. Like you just feel the emotion, man. You just feel the emotion. But that guitar work it draws you in, man, because this is just a very emotional song. So a great way to finish off the top half of this album. Next up, we have Sister Cry, one of those songs that Kev mentioned up front that he particularly liked. All right, Sister Cry, once again, a fantastic arrangement, right? The musicianship on here is just great. Ben Mott is on the piano and the organ. And, you know, I'm not a big organ guy, but the organ works perfect on all of these songs because it's not overdone, but it just lends that great tone in here. And Mark actually gets to showcase himself a penetrating bass line through this song and a great guitar solo in here. And yeah, I mean the guitar with Gary's a star, man, on this whole album with that guitar work. Mark was on lead vocals on this one. And, you know, it's about a girl who is down on her luck, right? She hasn't made the right decisions in life, but there's still a chance, right? Someone come along and carry you down. You call my name, I was so hungry. Then someone call you along and carry you down. You could not see you. And if you don't talk at all, it's the hardest way and carry you down. So I mean, a little vagueness there, but I think he maybe came and saved her, or maybe the hope of him coming to save her. Next up, we have Settled Down Like Rain. Let's do it. Settled Down Like Rain. I thought that one was so smooth. I think the best vocals, purest vocals on here, and Charlie Drayton's drumming was just fantastic on here, man. The song was just so smooth. Next up, we got Wichita. Wichita, the longest song on this album, clocking in almost 5.5 minutes. It didn't feel like it at all. Right, that song is really, really good. I mean, Kev mentioned in his write-up at the start about how much he liked the guitar work on this song. This song's fantastic, right? The drumming, just everything about it is fantastic. A bunch of biblical allusions in the lyrics. I haven't talked much about the lyrics on here. The songs are pretty well written. Some of them are pretty vague, right? It's more about how it all fits together with the arrangement and the musicianship. But, you know, you had Mark on lead vocals on here. And I found here that I don't really have a preference between Gary or Mark on the vocals. They're best when they're singing together. But yeah, I mean, this song was really, really well done. And this is the one that was written not just Gary and Mark, but also Mark Perlman. So whenever I say Mark, I'm always talking about Mark Olson, but Mark Perlman, the bassist on here, actually co-wrote this song as well. Got 2 songs left. Now we're up to Nevada, California. All right, Nevada, California, Mark on lead vocals there. But once again, Gary's guitar, that is kind of the highlight of this song for me. I mean, I don't have much else to add. I've already talked about how good Ben Mott is on this whole album, and he is here as well. All right, let's go to the finale. We got Martin's song, the shortest song on this album. All right, Martin's song. What a great way to end this album out. Just as far as, like, you know, it was just the highlight of everything that was good, right, on this album. The guitar work, I mean, you heard a little bit more of Mark on the acoustic. He's always on there, but, like, he got to shine a little bit at the start. Gary on the electric, Ben Mott on the organ, but you had Nikki on that piano. And you can just tell, right, even though Ben Mott is a master on the piano, you can just tell. But yeah, it was just really, really well done and a good way to finish this out. It reminded me a little of Springsteen, the way it started, right? So, I mean, that's always going to hit with this guy. Now we go to my favorite tracks. And there's a lot of them. Honorable mention, Crowded in the Wings, 2 Angels in this last song, Martin song. Faves, the first track, Waiting for the Sun, Take Me With You When You Go, Sister Cry, Settle Down Like Rain, and Wichita. So there's a lot of them. Now we'll go to my overall score. Look, the number 1 star on this stuff is definitely, and you heard me go over it, the instrumentation and arrangements is masterfully done, right? Everybody hitting on all cylinders, like Gary, Mark, you know, Drayton on the drums, but then Ben Mott adds a ton to this album, and then Nikki on the songs he's on. So, I mean, that's the star on this. So you remember Kev gave it a 9.0. He's got the advantage of repeated listening. This is my first listening. I'm going to give this a strong 8.25. Very, very good stuff from the Jayhawks. Let me know what else I should check out from the Jayhawks down below. What are your favorite tracks on here? Thanks again to Trucker Kev for bringing another banger. And until next time, guys, I will see you.